So it's been about a month since the fires in Lahaina, and I want to make a 1 month later video, sort of just talking about what I've seen going on. It's not so much a day-to-day recap of all of the events, but more just general observations on how we've handled things. Mostly just highlighting the things that have been disappointing, the things that are somewhat neutral, and the things that I thought we did really great. And let me know what you think about the events that have been going on in Maui in the comments below. So the first disappointing thing is that this event seems to have brought out the worst in a lot of people. Not everyone, but just a lot of people. From the litigation and the lawsuits, to conspiracy theories, to just, in general, a lot of complaining. When it comes to litigation and lawsuits, I pretty much expected that as soon as they reported this event and how bad it was gonna be. I told my wife, yeah, you can expect the lawyers to come calling because somebody's got to be blamed for this and they are going to be getting paid a lot of money. There's precedent set already in California with one of their utility companies and a fire that happened there. And I wouldn't be surprised if Hawaiian Electric or HECO has to file for bankruptcy just to be able to cover what's going to be coming up in the future for them. And how this affects ratepayers like us, we're going to have to wait and see. But it's definitely going to have an impact on most of the residents here in Hawaii. And I'm kind of disappointed in a lot of the theories on what caused this tragedy. You know, you can see it online that information or misinformation gets spread so quickly. And it's interesting that people seem to love it, though. Despite some of what people are saying, people seem to love it. I mean, it gets eyeballs. I mean, we probably find it interesting or at least novel, and then once you get engaged in that type of material, you just get passed along to more and more of that type of material because it's so engaging. I think it also feeds into this maybe rooted issue where a lot of people don't trust the government. And so whenever anything happens, there's some kind of angle, there's some kind of slant. And you know, it's gonna take a long time for them to figure out exactly what happened with the fires. I mean, I think I heard maybe around 12 months. And so we're not gonna get any real answers until then. But it's just unfortunate that within the first few days, within that first week, there are all these theories, all these ideas about what happened. And it just seems to get passed along so quickly. Now, as locals, we don't always have control over that narrative. I think some locals have contributed to that, but sometimes it just gets away from us. But I do think it's our responsibility to kind of reel it back in. And the last thing I want to bring up is a lot of the complaining. I remember particularly early on when we were trying to figure out what was the best way to donate money. What was the best way to help? So there were some organizations that were accepting donations, but the thing was people were complaining and were sort of almost blacklisting certain organizations because of certain affiliations. And it just seemed pretty bad. And at the time, it just seemed very confusing. Do I give money to this organization or this organization? And I'm just thinking, can you imagine if you were at one of those organizations that sort of got blacklisted on social media because of whatever issues people had? You must have felt horrible. Like, what did we do wrong? We're just trying to help, and yet people are telling other people, oh, don't support them because they're whatever. And it's unfortunate that that's what got spread around. And then there's also the issue of how much does one donate? I know people were complaining that certain celebrities weren't giving enough. They weren't doing enough. But I think far more dangerous and far more disappointing was the mixed messages about Maui, particularly coming to Maui. And I understand at the time, the message was to stay out of Lahaina. This isn't for visitors to come and take pictures or to walk through because it was an active site. But I think the message got out to, one, stay out of Maui completely, and two, stay out of Hawaii completely. And it's just sad that, again, there are some people who are given a platform, and that message that is sort of peppered with maybe anger or some kind of underlying bitterness is what gets spread around. And so people think, who are outside of Hawaii, they think, oh no, we have to stay out of Hawaii, we have to stay out of Maui. And again, initially, Lahaina, which is just a very small part of Maui, absolutely, stay out of there, let them do their work, and let them try to figure out what's going on. But the rest of Maui is still open. I've seen some of these online TikTok or real rants, and while the people may have good intentions, like they're trying to protect the people of Maui, I think what they fail to understand is that it's going to affect the economy if you tell people to don't come. Unfortunately or fortunately, Maui's economy, just like most of Hawaii, is based on tourism. And if you tell people to not come, it's going to have an impact on local businesses and eventually trickle down to regular people. And again, I find it sad that even though maybe they thought they had good intentions, how that message is delivered, sometimes it just seems just a little sharp. You know, there's something else underlying there that is carrying that, and maybe that's what's so attractive to some of these messages, right? You get that passion, you get that anger. And I think that the government and tourism industry leaders have been trying to recorrect that message that yes, stay out of Lahaina, but the rest of Maui and Hawaii is open, and in fact they need your business more than ever. Because even though this impacted directly the people who live in Lahaina, it's going to impact all of Maui for years to come. And I'm not sure that these people who are saying this to stay away from Maui completely understand the economic impacts of what they're actually encouraging people to do. And again, this wouldn't be so bad if these social media algorithms didn't send people down certain silos, but that's what they do. They keep people on the platform. And so if you get one of these types of messages, you're going to get recommended more and more. And then as a viewer, you just start to believe that. And so I think it's very dangerous and frankly, very harmful. And so I hope that people who are potential visitors or thinking about coming to Hawaii or coming to Maui, I guess I hope they take a bigger approach and not necessarily the advice of people who are ranting into their phone for 30 seconds. Again, it's these people's right to say what they want to say, whatever their opinion is or however they feel. But they should understand that they do have a bigger impact than maybe they think or maybe they want, I don't know. But it does influence others. And I think it's important to take into consideration maybe a more holistic approach. All right, now on to the neutral things. And first and foremost, I think that this event brought to light the fact that we do need to update our emergency management response plans, our processes, not just from a technical standpoint, whether it's sirens or systems, but also just a communication standpoint to regular people. Like, what are we supposed to do if something like this happens? So I think making sure that you have the right people in place, but also just communicating to the public, okay, hey, if this happens, we want you to do this. And that shouldn't take that much of an effort. Just blast it on social media, blast it on the news, and I think people in general are gonna figure it out. And by not doing this, it's just gonna perpetuate what happens whenever there's news of a hurricane coming to Hawaii. Everybody rushes to Costco and Sam's, they buy toilet paper, rice, generators, and bottled water, and then everybody panics, holds onto their stuff, and then returns it in a couple of days. And that's too bad that that's our reaction, because we're generally just not feeling like we know what to do or that we're prepared. So I think if it was communicated better what our emergency plan was, at least we all know. Kind of like small kid time, right? When we run the fire drills. I know it's kind of a bummer, but everybody in the class now knows, okay, we get up, we're gonna go down the stairs, and then we're gonna go out to this field. It doesn't mean that we all have to practice running out of our homes, but just in general, let us know what we have to do. And in terms of organization, I think this is a particular big one. I think we need to figure out how to better organize ourselves whenever emergencies like this happen, because while it was great that people gave a lot of donations and food and water and things like that, I think after a while, there was so much of that stuff that it kind of created more problems. I know initially they received a lot of donations at the state capitol, and if you look at some of those pictures, it was just like, almost like a swap meet. It was just so much stuff. And all that stuff has to be sorted through and it has to be boxed and eventually shipped. And I think there's a certain limit that people can give until it becomes sort of almost a hindrance. And so I think in the future, it would be better to have sort of a process on, okay, maybe initially we can get donations for opening it up for maybe a day and list out the items that people really need, that they think they're gonna need. And then after that, make a cutoff, and the rest of it can just be donations through cash. Because I can imagine that there was just a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff probably here on Oahu that's just sitting around, and it can't get to people because either one, they don't need it, or two, it's just so much work to get it there, or it's gonna take so much time to ship it over there, that really if people just gave cash, the cash is more liquid, it's more fluid, that it can be used for specific things that people actually need. And I know that people initially just want to do something, right? You get this bad news and you just want to go and do something. But I think it's better if we are organized, and that way it's just a lot less wasted effort. Because the goal is just to get people help, right? And if you can get them help quickly and efficiently, and especially long term, I think that'd be better than just give, and then we gotta sort through and reorganize things later on. Now, as the sun is blazing up, I just wanna talk about a couple of the good things that I noticed. First is the generosity of money and time and kindness. Now, living in Hawaii is pretty tough, and we all know that. But the outpour that has come in financially has been amazing. The fact that people are willing to give so much, businesses give so much, and even other countries give so much, it's just amazing to see that. There's also been people who have donated their time, and really that's the most essential, that's the most precious asset that we have, to go and volunteer and to serve those, whether it's from the federal level, state level, county level, just donating their time. Even private citizens who go there and just try to help and do something. And of course, there's all those small acts of kindness, the ones that you don't even hear about in the news, that aren't being reported, the people who are actually going down there and doing the things. Their kindness is amazing. And for those of us who can't be there, we're sort of counting on those people to continue that kindness, not just now, but into the future. And it may not necessarily be them, but it's people in those roles that we're counting on to help extend that aloha to them. And it's also been really great to see Hawaii rally together around something. I know typically we'd like to rally around women's volleyball or UH football or Little League or sports or certain people that go out there and accomplish great things, particularly when it comes to athletics or even competitions like singing events like American Idol. But it's just been really great to see that Hawaii can come together. On a very micro level in Hawaii, although we are all from Hawaii, or we're trying to make this whole thing work in Hawaii, right? We sort of get along and to some extent tolerate each other. A lot of times we're operating in our own little silos. And oftentimes these silos are based on income, where you live, race, religion, all those different types of groups. Even in Hawaii that occurs. But it's really great that I've seen people come together from all different walks of life. And it's nice to be reminded that the people of Hawaii are very kind and giving, and that we can rally behind things other than sports, and that we really can rally behind our own. And just to close, I know there's so much more work ahead to rebuild or for Lahaina to recover. And I know everyone's still trying to figure out what the best way is to do that, whether it's to rebuild now, to relocate. Where's the money gonna come from? Do people sell and leave, or do they try to stick it out? And how much is that long-term help gonna be there? And as we figure this out, I hope that we remember that this event is still about people, that it comes down to people. And I was reminded of this as me and my family were eating at our favorite Chinese restaurant in Kaneohe, Kinwa. Absolute best crispy gaoji and cake noodle on the island. But anyway, we were eating there, and a couple of people from Lahaina happened to recognize me and my wife, and so we were talking story, and they talked about how they lost their homes, and they just kind of shared, and they were staying in Kailua here on Oahu, and it was just nice to talk to them, because that was my first interaction with anyone who was directly impacted by the fires in Maui. And just hearing their story and talking with them, it brought it more into real life. It made it seem a lot more real for, again, someone who born and raised here, but I'm on Oahu. I don't really have a deep connection with Maui. I didn't grow up there, and I didn't really spend a lot of time on Maui other than golfing there maybe once every year or so. Because it's so different when you see all the pictures and the video online compared to when you actually talk to somebody in real life. And I appreciated them just talking about what they're going through and sort of what happened, because you never really get that, right? And I hope that we don't miss out on that talk story. That's part of what makes Hawaii so great, right? That you can walk into a Chinese restaurant and you can just talk to strangers. And so I hope that we don't lose sight of that. I hope that the people on Maui, the people in Lahaina, receive long-term help, and that we don't forget, because like I mentioned before, we're gonna move on, right? There's gonna be things that happen in Hawaii, and one day for a lot of us, this is gonna just be a distant memory. Even 1 month later, people have sort of forgotten and moved on. And yeah, that's their right. They all got lives. We all got lives. We're all busy, right? Things are expensive. We all got to go work, and we got families. But I think it's important to remember that for a lot of people, they're not going to be able to move on from this. And so when you think about it in that context, I hope that we don't forget them, and that we're there to at least show them kindness, to show them aloha, to show them support, and at least lend a listening ear. So thanks for watching, and aloha.